Hi, this is Tom De Wit from Dreamwalkers Inc., and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast, which is the podcast that is not prepared and presented by a man called Bruce, who apparently is the man. He's not just any man, he is the man. Also, I have to repeat once again that Chris apparently doesn't prepare this stuff, but that's okay, we still love him. Thank you.
Hey, you're listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast. I am Bruce.
My name is Chris, and I'm really prepared for this one.
Which is great, because the previous one, you had no idea what band we were even talking to.
You know what's funny? Is it a shtick, or am I really that lazy?
That's I don't know. That is the question. I sit back and wonder sometimes, like, what the hell is happening? Anyway, today we're talking to, I think these guys are from the Netherlands. It's going to be a band called Dreamwalkers Inc. We're speaking with Tom De Wit, the vocalist. I don't know, did you check these guys out at all?
I did, yeah. They're super proggy, lots of keyboards. They got a girl singer in the band as well as a guy singer.
It's not surprising. It's a very European sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like what metal is like in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Or as I grew up knowing it, Holland.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's the same. Doesn't the Netherlands include more than just Holland, though, or is it the same?
I don't know. You know what's funny about that is my dad's an immigrant from Holland, and I don't know the answer to that question.
Nice. All right, well, if you want to hang on, we'll go ahead and get Mr. De Wit on the line and see what happens.
Okay.
Hey, there he is. Chris, meet Tom. Tom, meet Chris.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. You?
I'm doing great. You know, we just learned the difference between Holland and the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's a pretty massive difference, actually.
You know, it's funny. My dad immigrated to Canada when he was 9, and I grew up knowing it only as Holland, and I just assumed it was the whole country.
Well, it is a common mistake. I mean, we can get into that a bit later if you guys want to, but it is a common mistake and makes sense actually, but only partially.
But why is it a mistake from my dad? His parents and him grew up there their whole life.
Well, actually, there is some sort of a valid comment behind that, because it depends on where he was born. Like, where did he come from originally? Do you know the city by any chance?
Friesland, I think.
Friesland, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, okay. No, then there's not really a reason. No, I was trying to save his ass, but now I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm going to give him a hard time now. I'm going to call him later. I'm going to be like, you asshole. You lied to me.
Also, before we go any further, I had the correct definition for the Netherlands, just for the record.
And then
that's good. That's good to know.
I have one other thing that I want to understand, because I don't understand it, is you see two spellings of the Netherlands. One is NETH and one is NED. Which one is correct? It's a bit like with it's a bit like, you call the country Spain, and Spain itself calls it España. It's like Nederland. So with the D, that's like Nederland. That's what we would say. That's how we call it in our own language. And the Netherlands is completely correct. Like, that's just the American/English version of the Netherlands. Got it. Sorry to hit you with all these questions.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I love answering this kind of stuff. I mean,
I know this is not a geography class, so I'm sorry for my partner there. But
it's all right, man. It's all right.
Hey, I graduated, okay?
In what exactly, good sir?
And that's the
audio engineering.
Okay.
I know my way around. I know my way around Pro Tools, but don't ask me to find my way around a wet paper bag, because I won't find it.
Or a map.
Yeah.
Thank God for navigation these days, huh?
Oh my God. Without GPS, I would be a dead man.
Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you were in a boardroom, could you give us a two-room boardroom pitch on Dreamwalkers Inc?
Weird music for weird people that you can sing along to, and it has metal in there.
Okay.
There you go. That would be the that's obviously the slightly comedic version, but yeah, I would say
progressive metal that has a lot going on at the same time, but which secretly is very catchy.
All right, so we were talking earlier before you got on the line here. Why do you think prog metal or prog in general is way more prevalent and way more popular in Europe than it is here in the US?
I mean, you're basically asking the question that all the promoters would like to see answered. Yeah. So, I mean, this is interesting because, for example, there's like a lot of bands from America. I mean, Dream Theater, Between the Buried and Me. There's like many major players coming from America and also playing America and playing the bigger cities and bigger venues. So it's kind of weird that there's still this sense of, yeah, prog doesn't sell in America, and I'm like, okay, so how does Between the Buried and Me sell out a tour then? I mean, if prog isn't happening in America. I do think there's this weird psychology going on, like Europe is metal and America is not, but then you actually start looking at the numbers, and it's like America is... well, I mean, this might sound a bit weird saying this as a European, but I tend to see America as basically 51 different countries anyway. It's like you cannot really make firm decision on one state and say, oh yeah, this obviously goes for everybody. No, that's not working. And in that sense, I would say there's a pretty big market there, you know.
That was a very valid comment for the time we're living through right now down here.
I guess, yeah. But it's interesting because I live in the Netherlands. The perspective you have as a Dutch person from America is like there's this big country on the other side of the world, and there are all these people who all think the same, or at least that's what the media would lead you to believe. And then I actually started, meeting up with more American people and getting in touch with people from all over the world, and I was like, there's no cohesive unity whatsoever. You guys are just a bunch of different countries lobbed in with one another. Really, there's so much differences going on there, you know. And I think that's great, actually. I think that's also what makes it work, weirdly enough. But it's so that whole idea of saying there is no American market just kind of makes me giggle, because I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever.
I mean,
tell that to Dream Theater.
But I know there is a market here. You know, we have that Prog Power Fest and we have all that stuff, but it just seems like labels like Napalm and bands like, you know, Epica and so many European bands, especially from the area you're in, it's really popular there.
Yeah, well, it's kind of weird because there was this. What we're doing with Dreamwalkers Inc. There's like this. I recently had this person come up to me, and this is something that is kind of frustrating yet also funny at the same time. Someone was like, "If you had boobs, you guys would have been bigger." And I was like,
"Great."
Fuck! I was like, "Fuck my life! Seriously? That's what this is about?" You know?
That's great.
Yeah, but it's just one of those comments. But then I was talking to this guy, and he actually meant it in a very sincere way, because he actually was surprised that we didn't have a bigger audience for what we're doing right now.
Right.
And I was like, well, it's honestly, if there was a quantifiable logic to it, then every band would be equally famous and not famous at the same time. You know what I mean? It's like you just got to be lucky to get to that. Like, it would be nice to go to Haken level or Dream Theater level, don't get me wrong, but there's a part of me that's like, okay, you know, if it happens, it happens. It's not like we're not working hard enough. It's not like the quality of our stuff isn't there. Right. But, yeah, apparently you just don't meet the right people who can do that for you or whatever. And, I mean, this might be a very non-American thing, a very European thing for me to say, but I'm actually quite happy with just making the thing that we do. And then if there's an audience, the audience will find it because we're putting it out there, and, you know, people will find it anyway. Yeah. But
so I mean, so being true to yourself, then I mean that's what it's all about anyway. Rather than, you know, making the music for a certain genre or to fit into the prog thing or the whatever, right?
Absolutely. I mean, right now this feels right, and it's like when I start writing music, just for those who don't know, I can imagine there might be quite a few listeners who've never heard of the band, and that's perfectly fine. But it's like when I started writing music under the name of TDW when I was 14 years old, I just started writing because I needed to get rid of stuff. And it was like, okay, I'll just write music. And that's the music that came out. And then people started telling me like, yeah, this is progressive stuff. I'm like, why? Well, because it's not a regular song. Oh,
right.
Okay. and that's kind of I was a fan of progressive music, so there's obviously a link there, but a big part of that was I wasn't consciously going like, oh, this should be a 7/8 song and this should be like 13 minutes long. No, it just kind of happened that way. And I think, regarding the band, it's like now we're writing with the whole band, and I'm still having my TDW project for myself. But every time we're writing music, it still turns out to be 5 to 6 minute songs, which all have these weird twists and turns in them. So yes, it turns out to be progressive metal, but it's not like we set out to say, oh, we're going to write this now. No, not really. It just kind of happens, really.
You know what? Go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say, what you were saying earlier reminds me of this time I met with Bruce Allen. I don't know if you know who he is. He manages Bryan Adams and Michael Bublé.
Right. Yeah.
So back when I was a musician, I was begging him for management because we both lived in Vancouver at the time. Mm-hmm. And he wanted nothing to do with me. But he did sit down with a meeting with me, and he said, I want to tell you this right now. He says, if you knock on one door, they're going to close it on you. If you knock on 100 doors, none of them are going to open. If you knock on 1,000, they're not going to open. If you knock on 1,000,000, they're not going to open. But if you keep knocking, one of those doors might open. And you have to realize you're not in the music business. You're in the rejection business. And it's your ability to get over that rejection and keep doing what you do that's going to cause that door to open.
Absolutely, yeah. I it's like that. Literally, that's the reason why I'm still doing the thing I'm doing. Like, we're now releasing this live album with the band, and then there's people like, how much of this are you going to sell? Like, I don't know, but I do know I do want to do this.
The video looks great.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice. And it's like just the way we're doing it. It's like we're first and foremost making the thing we want to make ourselves. Like, okay, would we buy this if we saw this in stores? Right. Fuck yeah. So that's why we're making it. That's really this whole reason. And indeed, I think the rejection business thing you're mentioning is pretty interesting because it's, I wouldn't say rejection. It's really just, there is a fuck ton of music out there. Let's just say it as it is. There's like thousands of bands popping out of the woodwork daily, and it's almost impossible to hear everything.
Absolutely.
So yes. So I'm not really. I used to be more personally attacked by it, but weirdly enough, now there's this sense of me as like, I'll keep doing this anyway. It's not a matter of if there's going to be a new album. There will be a new album. It's just a matter of when.
Right.
And if that album for some weirdo reason gets picked up by big management and suddenly we're on planes flying all over the world and doing this stuff, that would be great. But if it doesn't happen, I'll still have a great album that I'm really proud of. So
nice.
It's like that's kind of how I want to approach life in general. It's like, do the things that make you happy, and whatever else comes from it, great.
Right.
How do you deal with having so many people in one project?
Oh man. Well, it is interesting. That is one of the most asked questions I get, and it's like and it makes sense because you see 4-piece bands fighting each other. You know what I mean? It's like you see people exploding over nothing in much smaller quantities, and then there's us with like 8 people on the stage. But I think that the way it worked as a band for us was like because it started out from the TDW music, because basically we were just playing my solo music live. When we got the Prog Power offer in 2016, it was like, do you want to do a show? It's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And then I just got a bunch of musicians together to play my stuff. And that was the original intent. So it really was like, I wouldn't say session musicians, because I did pick people I personally felt connected to and knew that could play it. And, I wanted to create a unit, even though that wasn't the original intention. And then that did kind of happen because we started playing more shows. We did the Prog Power show and we had some more shows. We finished the album I was working on by myself. That suddenly also became more of a group effort. And that's also why I split it up, the TDW and Dreamwalkers Inc. thing. These are now 2 separate things, because Dreamwalkers Inc. is now a band that writes music. The new music we're really writing with all of us. And I'm also still doing TDW music by myself. And it's actually rather perfect that way, because if I have a cool song that I wrote all by myself, I could just give it to the band, and then they're like, oh yeah, sure, we can play this live. Right. So it's a weirdly great creative place to be, really. That's what it feels like right now.
Just so you know, I just broke a cardinal rule of this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just devastated.
I was saying the same thing.
I was devastated. We're not supposed to ask questions that bands get asked all the time, and I feel terrible. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. But just to, because I'm not even, and I haven't even answered properly. I'm realizing I'm ranting. I'm sorry. But regarding the volume of playing with 8 people, the reason why it worked, I think, is because there was a clear objective. Like, okay, this is the music. We're gonna play it like this. You know, there was not really a lot of wiggle / discussion room in that sense. And now that it's becoming a band, now we're actually, it's weird because we're coming in backwards in a way. Like, okay, we played these shows, we had a few releases, and now we're actually starting to find out how this band works. You know, it's kind of an interesting way of doing things.
I just always think of like the Police, you know, with Sting and Stuart Copeland, like getting into fistfights on TV. You know, they can't even stand each other. You know, it's like, and it's a trio. So
yeah. Well, although the thing with them is, I once saw this documentary with Stuart Copeland actually saying that they actually loved each other as people. They would actually have a lot of fun as you know, personally, but it was just the moment they would start talking music, it would just turn into this weird rivalry kind of thing, you know, testosterone exploding into one another and all that kind of stuff. It's like, why? you could also be civil about this stuff. It would just you could use the energy for better stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird, and maybe is the way I was raised. But I don't really see the point in having a conflict if the conflict doesn't lead to anything. If you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, sure. I can disagree with people quite a bit, might I add. I mean, hey, we're live in a free country. I'm more than happy to disagree with someone, but then I could still be really nice to someone. Like, I don't see the point in arguing and being in a fight with someone if I don't necessarily agree with his or her views.
Right.
But yeah,
that's the beauty of freedom.
Chris, that was a big party foul, though.
I know. That's going to require me to drink at least 3 beers tonight, maybe more.
Oh no! How terrible!
How terrible! We're in lockdown. What are you going to do tonight? I don't know. Probably have a beer or 6.
Yeah, it's like get fucking wasted and watch DVDs. I don't know. Fuck it.
No, you.
How are you guys?
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say what I'm doing in quarantine right now is I've lined up some of my favorite musicians, and we're doing a multicam cover of "Breaking the Law" by Priest.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, we have the ex-singer from Annihilator, the ex-bass player from Annihilator, the drummer from a band called Flybanger. It's going to be pretty fun. Should be interesting.
It's funny that you're mentioning Annihilator because I mean, I'm not sure if this show is meant for shout-outs, but actually you might have seen it, like the live album that you saw the video from was actually mastered by Rich Hinks, who is the now bass player and, you know, co-producer for Annihilator, and he's a good friend of mine.
Cool, great player too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Rich, he's just, it's, you know, you have this weird situation that you meet someone that you never talked to, and I literally met him like 2 months ago, and it feels like we've really been friends for years. It's like we're so incredibly similar, also in terms of our work as audio engineers, etc. It's like, where were you all this time? It's really weird how that works.
Are you an audio engineer as well?
Yeah, it's for my day job, between brackets. I have my own studio in my house, and I produce audio, video, and web design work for people. So it's really, I would just call it media production in a very broad sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, the live video you saw, just for your reference, like I produced and mixed the audio. I was the one bringing the cameras into the venue, and I basically edited everything. Rich did the mastering, but all the other stuff that was involved in that production is my work, basically.
Very cool.
And thank you. And it's one of those. It was actually someone recently going like, "How do you keep creating so many things?" It's like, well, I basically give myself reason to create things. It's like, okay, if the work isn't there, then maybe I should just film a show and edit that, and then I have something new to show that I can actually do this. Yeah, that works. Okay, let's do that then. You know.
Okay, I have 2 geek questions then.
Sure.
Okay. Fire. What DAW are you using currently?
I've been infected by the Steinberg virus. I even have the sound card here, so I'm a huge Cubase user. I've been working on that since 2006, I think. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's cool. They have a great the way you can map drums in Cubase is killer. What video editor are you using?
I am. I'm actually. I've also been infected by Adobe, so I'm a pretty avid Premiere user. It's like a few years ago, I was actually I was working with Sony Vegas, which you can actually do some pretty decent things with. Like most, I would say anything below 5 cameras, you can also easily do on Sony Vegas and get some pretty professional results out of. But I don't know. For me, it felt like I've always been working with Photoshop, and then it was really just an easy step to finally go to Premiere because I could just hook that all up.
Yeah, it's so interconnected. It works so well.
Exactly. So for me, it's really like I can just with Mike. I personally think that because you were mentioning Pro Tools, and I actually quite like Pro Tools. It's just that I don't have the. I kind of decided to go to Steinberg route because I was able to get a sound card for a specific price, and I was like, okay, then that is what I'll be focusing on. You know, that it makes more sense for my work as I do it.
Yeah. But
I have worked with Pro Tools as well, and I was really, I mean, it's an amazing piece of gear. You can't really deny that.
Yeah, I've the only reason I use Pro Tools is because I started on it like 20 years ago. So it's like,
yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know anything else.
But nice. to be fair, if you put me behind Logic, for instance, it's like I'm also a Windows guy, and these days that's not that much of a shocker anymore because let's face it.
Amen.
But it's like Windows and Apple used to be like this big difference, and these days everything is Intel processing anyway. So it's like, you know, like all the software is interconnecting anyway.
Oh yeah.
And
go ahead.
And oh yeah, sorry, yeah, no, you go.
No, you're the guest.
Okay. But I am noticing that that with the combination of Cubase and Premiere works really well because it's also relatively easy to run those side by side. So it's often that I'm doing video stuff and I can just and then I hear something in the audio isn't right, so I can quickly make a tweak in Cubase and then just fire it into Premiere pretty much one-on-one. So in that sense, yeah, that's why I kind of stuck to those things. Because it's also, and that's probably something you would recognize as a Pro Tools user. It's like at a certain point, your whole keyboard is not a keyboard anymore. It's a shortcut machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know where everything is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like that.
Yeah, my wife asked me, "How can you type so fast?" And I was just like, "Oh, I don't look at the keyboard. I just know where I know how to get around the keyboard because of Pro Tools."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when I taught Pro Tools, my students always used to ask me, "What's the best way to get fast at Pro Tools?" And I said, "Take a typing class."
It's true. Yeah, but it is true. It is so true. People tend to forget how much you can actually do on a keyboard which actually speeds up your workflow in general. And it's just something people are like, oh, I'll just use the mouse. Like, yeah, sure, I'll be faster than you on basically everything now.
Oh my God. I check this out. I used to give my students a math equation. I'd say, okay, so if you're going to sit down and let's say you're going to edit drums, you're going to cut it to the grid. You have 1,000 edits. Let's say 1,000 edits for an average song. If you do, every hit. Now, if you have to use your mouse, each one of those edits is going to take you 1 second.
Yeah.
So let's calculate how much time that is. Now let's see how fast the shortcut is. It's about 250 milliseconds to 500 milliseconds, depending on how fast you are. How much time do you save by the end of the day?
A lot.
It's the
yeah.
It's the difference between getting home at night to see your wife and having dinner and just working through the night.
But that is something that I got a lot of people. There was actually a few people who sat next to me in the studio while I was doing my work here, like either for video or audio, and then they would also be like, "Geez, you're so fast." But then I'm like, "Yeah, that's because I have 3 screens lined up next to each other, so I can easily go everywhere without having to alt up between screens."
Yeah,
right.
That is already a time saver. Second, I know my shortcuts. Third, I most of the time already have a set idea in my head, like, okay, I probably want to do it like this. So then you already know what you need. Then there's no point in going through endless lists of presets or plugins that you're not using because you need that one thing to get that one job done.
Absolutely.
And that's also a thing. Like if as a songwriter and as a creator, I mean, looking at the band and at my own music with TDW, it's like I often do have a set idea of what kind of emotion I want to express. Or, what I want to say with a song. I don't know how the song's going to go, but I do know, like, okay, I feel this now. I read this in the newspaper this morning or on the internet, and I want to express this. So I'll probably need to be in that direction, and that helps. That helps speeding up the process massively.
So, do you guys have like a set kind of, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I'll describe it this way. Like, you know how Bob Dylan was known for like protest songs, and like glam metal bands were known for sexism and whatever. So, like, do you have a set idea about your messaging, or is it just kind of whatever happens?
I think it's actually a pretty good one. This is something that I've been pondering for a longer time as well, because it's like, like I said, I can answer this twofold in a way, because it's like there's me with the TDW stuff I do, and I have a pretty clear set of ideals and things that I want to express through my music. But those are the same ideals that you see when I am looking at my life and at the posts that I do. There's someone recently came up to me, was like, okay, so your music is extremely serious, but then your Instagram is filled with pictures of video games, you petting your cat, and well, yeah, and all these different things, and they were like, it's a weird enigma you're creating. But I'm like, well, but there is a logic to it, because my music is my serious side, and when I'm up on stage, it's like the moment I'm up on stage performing that stuff, that's dead serious, because I mean it. I mean the thing that I'm singing. If I don't mean it, if it's not sincere, then there's no point in me standing there, because then I'm a really bad liar, So it's like you'll see it. You'll see it when I'm not there mentally. And I think that regarding a brand or something that I express, it's like with TDW and with my own music, there's a very clear idea behind the lyrics, behind the things that I want to do. And that is literally one of those cliche comments saying you might want to leave the world a bit better than you found it, which is something that I strongly believe in and which I put in my music and in my art.
Awesome.
And I think regarding the band, I would say, like that has been the extension for the band as well so far, because the band was an extension of TDW, and now that we're kind of finding our footing as a band, this is actually a question that we're also thinking about. Like, we're working on a concept record. The next album is going to be a concept album, which will probably be somewhere late in 2021, because we're still writing, we're still creating songs now, and it's like there is a lot of that original idea from me in there, but there's also other band members that also contribute. So I can answer it on behalf of myself. I cannot answer it on behalf of the band yet, but I do think it's going to be an extension of that with maybe some extra flavors in there, if you know what I mean, like that, because the others will include stuff.
Awesome. So now we have to do the business part of it. Where can people find Dreamcatchers Inc?
Dreamwalkers Inc. Dreamwalkers Inc.
Fuck!
You got him. There we go.
Yeah,
just so you know, Tom, he never preps, man. He's kind of just shows up.
Oh yeah, who's the one that's doing all the fucking talking here, Bruce? I just slipped up, man. I just slipped up. Okay. Like, I don't know if you guys. I don't know if you saw. Right. I don't know if you saw the Canadian Prime Minister the other day.
I'm not. No, I didn't. What happened? What happened?
Well, he was trying to just talk to. What the hell was that? He was trying to convey why people should wear a mask in public, but he speaks French first and English second, so it takes him a while to kind of translate the words sometimes. So instead of saying the condensation from the mouth, he said speaking moistly, and they turn.
I know some people do that on a daily basis.
yeah, and there's like this massive hit in Canada right now because someone took his speech about speaking moistly and turned it into like this huge dance remix.
Oh my god! I should check that out. That's awesome.
I'll send it to you on Skype when it's done. It's so funny. But anyways, that's what just happened to me. So back to where we were here.
No worry. Look, the thing is, Dreamwalkers Inc. I mean, we're lucky that it is a band name that in a way stands out, because it's not your average metal band name, but it is a long name, and I kind of. It's like there's so many people like, hey, you were called Dreamwalkers, right? It's like, yeah, there's an ink behind it, and they were like, really? Like, yes. It's like, people tend to forget stuff all the time. It's all right. But But well, you can find Dreamwalkers Inc. on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find us on, there's an official website, dreamwalkersinc.com. And, well, those are the obvious places. And we're releasing our work through the label Layered Reality Productions. So if people want to buy that stuff, they can get it from the Bandcamp store. There is a Bandcamp. There's dreamwalkersinc.bandcamp.com as well. And yeah, the same goes for the TDW stuff, and all that is connected to the label, so it's all in the same place.
Amazing.
Really.
Awesome. Tom, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Be safe.
Yeah, thanks, man. And thank you guys for making this. And yeah, hit me up once it goes live and all that. And
absolutely.
All right. Hey, talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.
Be well.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.
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 Hello out there. Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Flynn McLean. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you.